That led to me making some very poor decisions. Touched base on it once before. I borrowed without asking a vehicle and ended up totaling it.
Good morning, Keep It Crazy family. Okay, so we kind of briefly have touched on Tristan's foster care story, but we haven't really got into details of that. And Tristan is ready to share stuff he said that I don't even maybe understand or know. Or I don't know.
I don't know.
Okay.
I feel like it's stuff we've obviously talked about what's happened, the past behind everything, but I feel like there's some nuanced stuff that I feel was really important, but I don't know if I've necessarily talked about.
Okay.
So, yeah. I think the most important place to start actually doesn't have anything to do with me. It has to do with my mom, my biological mom. So the reason I say that will make sense in a second, but my mom was adopted from Seoul, Korea when she was less than a year old. She was around Saint's age. And she was put into a foster home here ran by my grandmother and her first husband. Okay.
I didn't know that actually.
Yeah, so that'll make sense. That'll make a lot more sense in a second. So growing up, I was born here in Arizona, and a couple of days after I was born, I was taken to Washington State. And I lived in Redmond with my three older half-sisters and my stepdad. And my mom's health started to decline around that time, and I had only met my grandmother once or twice before that. And they sent me it was right after my 7th birthday. They were like, hey, you're going to spend the summer with your grandparents. And I think 7-year-old me should have put together, it wasn't summertime. It was right after January. So that wasn't the case. Hold on, I always get the story is so convoluted.
Well, you were 7, so.
So when I got placed when I was 7, they said you're going to spend the summer with your grandparents. And I didn't realize at the time that meant that I was going to be a foster child in their home. Their house was actually a home that dwindled the number of kids that are even through the Crazy Pieces and Crazy Middles combined. They were a house that saw over 58 kids through the time. I was number 55. I was towards the very, very end of their whole thing, and this involved my grandfather, which was the second husband to my grandmother, if that makes sense. So half the family has a different dad. My biological mother does not consider my grandfather the second husband to be her dad.
So did they get married after she was out of the house?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So she was already already aged out and stuff.
Yeah.
So time went on, and my uncle, obviously not my biological uncle. Anytime I say these, it's all based on my mom's foster home. So it's none of this is connected like that. So he had offered to have me stay there. He was the person that had power of attorney and control over my mom's well-being at that point. And I saw an opportunity to not be one of 14 kids that was living inside a house, and I took it. Didn't end the best for whatever reasons, and ended up going back into the system for a while. And once that was done, I think I was in 2 or 3 placements between my uncle's house and my grandparents again, because I ended up going back with my grandparents. So then when I went back with my grandparents, that kind of led into everything else. And then I had 2 spurts of awayness, I guess. So then once I got back from juvie, I had a lot of everything. And a big part of why I felt like I was just misbehaving in everything was before I got a little confused on the age that I even was because of everything that was going on. I felt like I had just turned 8 because my birthday had just passed. And I was so distrusting of my grandparents and my grandmother especially, even at a young age for whatever reason, that I couldn't take her word for it. So they thought that I was having some developmental setback of some kind. And that led to me being held back in the 3rd grade, which on set, just humiliation, I would say, about even going to school. It led into me not caring about education literally my entire childhood. And it wasn't something I picked up. I was with Crystal and Kraz when I ended up dropping out of high school and seeking out a GED. And yeah, education wasn't something I really cared about until my early 20s. The last thing though, before I met Kraz and Crystal when I was 16, was I was having a lot of substance abuse issues and problems at the time, and that led to me making some very poor decisions. Touched base on it once before. I borrowed without asking a vehicle and ended up totaling it, and that is the catastrophe that led me to you guys.
So when we got the call, we were told, like, and here's the thing is I feel like caseworkers either will dilute situations and or make situations, like label kids in a way that they shouldn't be labeled or that happen completely differently. But they were like, oh my gosh, like, we just don't have any other homes. Can you take him for the weekend? And they were like, but you gotta hide your keys because he'll steal your car, and he's a fire starter. So make sure. No, I know this is what we were told. Make sure you don't have anything that he can start fires with, and then we'll pick him up on Monday. And then they drop him off, and
your friendly neighborhood pyro. Like, what is? No, I do not. I am not a fanatic about fire in any way, shape, or form.
He's not a fire starter. But we sat and talked with him over the weekend, and I was like, "What are they talking about?"
Yeah, it was.
No, and we ended up telling the caseworker, like, "You don't need to come and pick him up. Like, we will be a full-time placement for him." But I just remember you sitting and like playing video games and like the zombie whatever game.
Oh,
and
that was the best.
We would sit and watch him play, or we would try to play. We're not very good at it. And he's like, what are you guys doing? And I'm like, we're watching you play. Like, we're spending time together. And he's like, that's weird.
It was kind of weird to be observed. Like, I don't know. It kind of felt like I was like, you felt like I was going to just do something wrong at like any moment. Like, they're like,
see,
like helicopter
like
parenting,
we were
and I was like,
do that. I just actually wanted to get to know you. Like,
oh,
it
I was
wasn't
just hanging
even
out.
like, I know, but I feel like it was a good bonding though over the years, like the video games.
Oh, I agree, and that's what like I feel like League. We all play on a 5s team. Like Max included, he's sitting behind the camera right now, but we all play on a 5s team together, and Mark on the other side of this wall right now. And yeah, I think that's like a big bonding thing that we do even now.
Yeah. What do you think in the foster care system like needs to be changed, or something that you experienced that you were like, I wish that would have been so different?
Okay, so I think my answer is going to come from like kind of like an introspective way. Like, it wasn't a situation that I had to deal with personally, and I was blessed to not have to deal with it. But like, I do feel for like the kids that do. And that's when you have younger siblings that are inside the system and you guys have to get separated. I think that like that needs to be addressed. Like we have Bella, Rylan, and Liam that were able to stay together, but then there's situations like Alex's situation where he wasn't together with his biological siblings, or Adele and Jake when that first started, and I think that needs to be fixed and addressed. I think that when you strip a child from their normal so much, and they've just lost their parents in a lot of cases, their normal every day is all over the place. Like, I think that the bare necessity would be like to keep their family as together as they could be. So I think that would probably be what I would address.
I agree 100%. And I know, actually, I'm just sorry on a side note, but I got asked this recently, is why was Alex and his sister, and he even has a brother, why were they all separated and what happened? And it's because a family decided to take the older brother and younger sister, but not Alex. And Alex was having some behaviors and different things, and they were like, no, I just want the two. And I feel like families shouldn't get to choose. Like, I feel like it should be an all or nothing, unless it's like unsafe to do so and there's other stuff going on. But in the majority of cases, I feel like keeping those siblings together is so incredibly important.
And I feel like, I don't know if like this could be integrated in any way, shape, or form, but like when a kid comes into the system, they are boiled down to words on a list, not the kind of kid that they are, just the things that they've done. And I think it's kind of like modern day policing and whatnot. Like, it's not the right way to go about it, is to just throw the book at people. So it's like you get judged on the things that you did when put in specific circumstance, but no one's looking at the circumstance that you did these things. So I don't know. If there's some kind of way to like intermediate that, like with video interviews or like more in-person type interviews and stuff like that. But yeah, I feel like if I wasn't able to stay with you guys for that weekend and it was boiled down to just like what was on the paper file, like I wouldn't have had a home.
Yeah, no.
Like I wouldn't have been able to. So
I think a lot of caseworkers assume too, like, oh, no one wants to take a teen that has any kind of history with anything. And so a lot of them won't even search out homes, and they'll just put them into group homes or put them into whatever, and like until they age out, and like hopefully they make it. Like, I feel like the system needs to address
and
how
sometimes
that's
I feel for that even from the other side, like, you don't want to break the sanctity of your home. Like, if you have like children inside your house and like you feel like something could be unsafe and this kid fights and stuff, but if you didn't talk to them and know them, like, we've got a more than a few that have been labeled as fighters, and you get to talking to them, and they're some of the sweetest people. Like, it's so true. Like, Luke jumps out in my brain when I say that. It's just like, he's a sweetheart. He really is.
He is such a sweetheart.
Shout out Luke.
I will say, I don't know if any of you, for those of you who've been with our channel for a while, remember when Luke first came. I don't even know if I talked about it actually. Okay, Luke was with us for maybe like a week or two. He won't mind me telling the story either, because he had good intentions. But so he was with us for a week or two. We went to a football game to watch Alex play football, and he went behind the bleachers and he was like playing football with some of the kids behind there. And all of a sudden, one of the kids, I don't even remember exactly which kid, but one came running over to me and they're like, Luke got into a fight. And I was like, wait, what do you mean? And so I go back behind the bleachers and I'm like, oh no. Like, okay, so basically they were playing football, and there was this kid that was known as a big bully in town, and he went up and pushed Luke. And Luke got up and was like, hey, like, don't push me. Like, I'm not okay with that. Don't do that again. The kid continued to play really rough and pushed him again. And Luke again gave him a warning and was like, listen, like, you're not going to push me around. You're not going to bully me like that. Like, I don't think he used the word bully, but he was just like, listen, like, I'm not okay with that. Like, do not put your hands on me again. The kid did it again. And Luke beat him up pretty bad.
Are we able to tell this?
I don't know.
This entire time I'm like laughing. I'm like, we're setting this up and said, like, are we allowed to talk about this?
Yeah, I think we're fine to talk about it because, okay, here's the thing. So then obviously I had stepped in and I was like, you know, what happened? And I was told the story and I was like, listen, like, obviously I'm never okay with violence or fighting or anything like that to that degree, but I am okay with people defending themselves. And I felt like Luke had defended himself in that situation, but then I had to do a whole incident report with the state. And like when you have a foster kid and anything happens, you have to do a whole incident reports. And so I did it and I turned it into the caseworker, and now he's labeled a fighter. And that's what I was getting at, is you get these situations where it's like, was he defending himself? Like, you know what I mean? Was he defending a sibling or whatever the case is? But it's like they get labeled as that, but no one knows the whole story. It was self-defense. I could go on a long tangent on the kid and everything else that happened, but yeah, just down to it, that's why kids get labeled, and that's kind of why I was telling that story. But
I feel bad. I was like laughing when you were telling this story.
It's not a funny story. We're not meaning to laugh about it. When you look back on situations, obviously in the moment it didn't feel like that.
Just knowing Luke, like, you had to have pushed him very far for him to put hands on.
He has amazing patience with stuff, and so for him to be pushed that far, yeah.
Yeah, so. I've seen like arguments with brothers and stuff get pretty intense, but like he's never like he's not that guy.
No,
he's really not that guy.
What changed your education part of it? That's what I'm curious about. Like, to go from not caring, and I mean he did not care about education at all. And him and I went back and forth like, you need to go to school, and he's like, I don't want to.
Oh my goodness. And I was at a point in my life where if my hair didn't look right, I was not willing to go to school.
It's so true.
I was unwilling. No, I really got, excuse me. It really was based in it was really just based in not caring about it, like from such a young age. And it wasn't until I was older and like I kind of got separated from like the persona of being a foster child that it was that I was like, you know, I think I could do this. I think I could do this really well. And at the time, I was actually working already in a job that would have required that type of degree. So for me, I was already winning and I was making money going to school and I was doing my thing. And I felt like it was what I needed to be doing. But as far as like mindset shift, like, I don't know. It's just like, it's hard to explain, but it's like a wanting or a needing to like have or do more. if that makes sense.
I like that. Yeah.
It just felt like I copped out of school, and I always like felt like I was like, hey, like, how would I have gone about this? Like, had I have done school and worked hard through high school and like cared about it, I always like wondered what that would have been like. And I ended up graduating summa cum laude. I graduated with 3.97 out of DU. So
it's amazing.
I got it done, but it's not necessarily like my biggest achievement. I still don't think that's there for me.
Real quick on a side note too, we weren't just like, oh, you can drop out, that's fine. We were like, or I sat him down, no, it wasn't. And I'm like, no, I was like, you can drop out if you can pass your GED, otherwise you're going back. And that's kind of the conversation that we had initially. And you were like, I'll pass my GED, fine.
Yeah, and I took it, I remember I took it twice with no study, and there was like one part that I had to retake because like I barely didn't make the threshold. I don't even remember what part it was.
I don't remember
but
either,
it got done, and I just started working. So like when was that? I think that was before I was 17 because I was working full time. Because I was working nearly full time when I was still living with you guys. I was working up to the maximum for pre-18.
Yeah. Okay, what other story did you want to tell, or what other thing?
What other story did I want to tell?
That you were like...
Oh, I don't know if this can even get mixed in there. If you're a foster parent and you're having a child come into your home and you know that they are going to stay, explain that to them. Even if they're young, explain that to them. Because no one ever sat me down and said, hey, Tristan, you're going to stay here. They just enrolled me in school. And so I was like 7 and I'm sitting in the backyard and I'm just like, guess I'm never going home.
That's so sad.
So have those conversations. Like, kids understand, like, you pull them out of their homes and you place them in other places, and like sometimes like even send them across the country. Like, they understand that something's going on. Not bringing them into the loop isn't protecting them. Like, I never understood that notion. So be better.
I agree with that. And I feel like there's so many situations where we would try to explain. I will, real quick, from the foster parent standpoint, you sometimes don't know how long a kid is going to stay. And it is such a hard thing. And like, what do you share with them? What do you not share with them? And you're kind of like, so with me, I was always trying to be as open as I could with the kids without giving them like false hope with different situations. And I feel like because, okay, and Jake, for example, and he, is fine with me sharing this also. But Jake was with me for close to 3 years. And the entire 3 years, they were like, he's going back to bio family. He's going back. Bio mom's working the plan.
That's before Jake was Jake. That was back when Jake was Izzy.
Ishmael. But so along the way, I'm like, no, you're part of our home. Like, you're part of our, family. But I was in the back of my mind, like, they could pull him tomorrow. And so I think it's scary from our perspective.
I think that is fair. My situation was slightly different than that, and I guess that is like, even when you were explaining that, it was like one of those things that you have to like upgrade your mindset on. Like, are you still looking at that like you're just an upset child? And I guess that was one of those things that I was. So
yeah, but I think that I feel like you're really, really smart, and I feel like people should have explained. And I think obviously it depends on the age group of a kid, but like with Jake, what I was going to say is they called me one day and they were like, okay, the judge said, he can go home. And this was after 3 years of being with me. And I was like, wait, what? And they're like, yeah, like, we're going to come pick him up tomorrow. They gave me 1 day notice.
Are you able to fight that?
And, well, I was like, what do you mean? They're like, well, mom's been clean. Everything's great. Like, he's going home. And I just got this feeling. And I was like, I'm not going to say anything to him. And then that's gambling, because you're like, you want him time to prepare his feelings, and he's so attached to us, and this whole thing.
You're not going to say anything? You're just going to let them show up?
Well, I didn't know. I was going to wait till last minute because, listen, I just got a feeling that something was off about it. And so, sure enough, the next morning, I didn't even pack his stuff either. They're like, pack all of his things, and I was like, I'm not packing it yet. And then the next morning, sure enough, they called, and they're like, actually, do you want to adopt him? Yeah, they were like, this and this happened. I'm obviously not going to tell the story of what happened, but some stuff happened, and they were like, nope, we actually decided to sever rights. And I'm like, how do you go in 1 day from he's going home to pack his stuff to you want to adopt him and he's your forever kid?
We need to like release an uncensored version of all these stories.
I'm not. Yeah, because I'm like, thank goodness I didn't get his hopes up that he was going back home. So thank goodness I didn't say something.
Well, after 3 years, and like I did know Jake before when he was Izzy, and like that was important too. Like I was still living inside the home when Jake came. But after 3 years and stuff, like there's no you would have been just re-traumatizing him.
I know.
At that point.
I agree.
Like, no.
And the second we were like, do you want us to adopt you? He was like, yeah. Like, he already felt like he was a part of our forever home. So I was glad, though, that I didn't re-traumatize that he was going. And then, I don't know. So I was glad I didn't say anything, but that was a huge gamble. And I was so sick to my stomach because I was so attached to him and just loved him more than anything and wanted him to be, you know, my forever son. And then when they were like, nope, like we can just pull him. And so, I don't know. I feel like the foster care system, there's so much to it and it's so complicated and every situation is so different. But...
Or the state of Arizona
so
drop sold you. Like when a car dealership tells you like, oh, you didn't get approved. But then they're like, we're going to try one more time so that you really want it.
Oh no. No. That's not true.
They drop sold it, they're like, you want to adopt him now, don't you?
Real quick too, that is why we didn't end up adopting Adela back then, is because a caseworker told us that we couldn't. But she was in a foster home for 3 years prior, or actually more than that, for 4 years, because Jake came to us, he was already a year in the foster care system.
And that was pre-YouTube. That was pre a lot of stuff. So like
pre-everything.
It was that. Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine if you guys would have gotten another kid back then.
What do you mean?
That would have been wild. There was a lot of kids back then. There was a lot going on.
I don't know. There was a lot.
Crystal was running around. She drove a white van to drop off all the kids every single day. And she was like, every single morning, it was like this whole routine getting all the kids ready and everything. Because there was no grandma helping out. There was no Hallies helping out. There was no Maxes or any of us hanging out around and stuff to help. It was literally all you.
And Aaron was working crazy hours. So it was just me, like...
we would see
all my kids.
He was working nights, so we'd see him for like an hour or so. Like he'd come back from his day and he'd be like super tired, and we'd see him for like an hour or so in the morning, and then he'd go to sleep. And then it was kicking it.
It was crazy.
Okay, and that's when Crystal encouraged me to drop out of high school so that I could hang out more.
I did not. I'm like, hang out with me. No, I did not. That's not true. Not true. Okay, real quick, last thing we want to touch on. So, a lot of this happened in Payson. You moved from Payson, you moved back. True. What kind of closures, or do you feel like it was a good experience, or where are you at as far as like closure from your past?
So we actually talked about this, and I did a little more introspect because I think right now, like personal finance and like trying to like do the things I want to do in life right now has me thinking of things inside a different lens from a better space. But I think it was a good thing. Like, although like I don't have my motorcycle anymore because of moving costs and stuff, but it's fine. It was a lot of closure, and I got to reunite with my old friend Jesse. I've shown him on the channel a couple of times, as well as like make way and like talk to my grandfather, someone who I hadn't seen since I was like 16, and I really didn't think that we were ever going to have any type of discord that would be productive. But that was really good, and like I got a lot of closure talking to him, and just like solidified my faith while living in Payson. So it was spiritually, it was a really good thing. I think that I was there. Financially, maybe not so much. So
that's fair.
Happy I did it. Happy it's over. Another stamp in the book.
And then one more quick question. What would you say to like foster kids who are going through a hard time or a hard situation right now, or maybe not even foster kids, anybody in general? As far as like, I don't know, do you have any advice in working through anger, working through certain feelings, or feeling like, you know, nobody loves you, or you're alone, or whatever the case is? Is there anything that helped you out through those kind of feelings?
I think the biggest thing you could ever adopt, for anyone, whether that's foster care or not, is get out of the victim's mentality and don't allow yourself to fall into that. It's one of those things where it's not going to get you anywhere, and like working hard to get through it, and sometimes the only way out is through. And so I think that just like keeping from being a victim and feeling like you're like kicked down forever, especially those that were in foster care. Yeah, it's not you, it's just something you went through.
Love that. All right, well, thank you so much for hanging out with us, and we will see you all next time. Bye.